Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Report's Reality Check. We're going to get into the Democrat Party and where they're at right now. It feels like panic. It feels like palpable desperation. It feels like a crumbling of hope and maybe a realignment of the parties that might, I mean, tank them at the ballot box for a decade to come. It's really, really looking gross. I make my own thumbnails. I like to have fun, but this is like basically where we're at. They have these leaders that are getting their phones melted. They're very afraid to come out because Twitter is where they can speak to the masses. And it doesn't go well when Chuck Schumer says something because almost everything he says is a hot take. And then you have the Democrats sitting there in the audience at Trump's speech with their stupid auction paddles. Rich Barrett said it looked like they were trying to bid on, like auction off the future of America to to the highest bidder. And I think that that's probably good imagery. That's what it looks like, is auction paddles. But I think this was what James Carville, remember, that was February 24th, and this was March 4th. That's what Carville's advice was. His advice was, listen, you guys going out, Elizabeth Warren, and saying stupid stuff is not helping you. It's just getting clipped up on Twitter and spread all around, and everybody's having a good old time laughing at you and ratioing your account. So shut up. Like, just stop saying everything like play possum. Now, I think his, the other half of that equation was, well, if you shut up, then Trump's going to make an unforced error. I don't think we're seeing that. It would have to be a really big error at this point based on all the stuff that people have tried to accuse Trump of. But so they sat there in the speech and did nothing. They didn't clap for that poor kid with brain cancer. They didn't clap on any of the positive things that Trump was able to accomplish. And that was even worse optics too. And I have numbers on that. So we're going to take a look. But what we're going to go into is, it's hard to grade a party. And you can ask favorability numbers, and you're going to get numbers that look pretty much like the generic ballot. But there's other ways to ask it, and some of them will be apples and oranges. But I think we'll give a pretty good context tonight. The Democrats are really screwed, like really screwed. And again, anything can happen in politics. And so maybe they'll pull it together somehow. But I'll give you some context, like some of the little gems that I've seen over the last couple of days that just stood out to me. Here it is on Twitter. After the election, Democrats took a long, hard look at their failing policies and wisely pivoted to the political center. Nah, just kidding. They're setting Teslas on fire. And this is going to blow up in their face because, Trump's out there trying to protect Elon, which he should. He should, form ranks on this guy. And he went out and bought a Tesla himself. And my understanding is that this is getting referred to Pam Bondi. And I think there's even accusations that ActBlue might be behind funding this. And if Trump goes ahead and declares these people terrorist organizations, I already think that ActBlue is in the crosshairs. This is crazy. Everybody asks, well, what's going to happen in 2026? And my response is, I have no freaking clue. It all depends on if ActBlue exists or not. And the fact is that if it doesn't, I'm probably going to miss to the left by 3 points, because without that $2 billion laundered money advantage. Look at these pictures. It's absolutely insane. And then I put this out here today. I think this accurately represents sort of the end stage of the Democrat Party, which is hey, they've been crazy since 2016. They could have been pursuing mainstream policies. Instead, they tried to attack Trump, and that didn't win. Then they embraced the fringe in order to try and virtue signal and, do the oppression Olympics or whatever, and push all this unpopular stuff and try and take 10% issues, make them into 30 or 40% issues. And I think they thought they could get away with it. They were very successful with COVID because people got afraid, and a lot of people believe that stuff. But they couldn't get people afraid enough of racism to support mass reparations. They couldn't get people afraid enough of Trump to help them throw him out of office. So here we are, Democrats embracing the fringe, and it's, when the pendulum swings back on truth, sorry guys, you're kind of screwed. And then I also made this comment, which I thought was pretty, this Mahmoud Khalil guy, the guy that's getting deported, the former Colombian student who miraculously has British security clearances, who I think a judge actually put a stay on the deportation to have a hearing, but whatever. This guy should get packing. You know what an ideology wants by the heroes they elevate? The right, Trump and Elon. The left, Mahmoud Khalil and Luigi Mangione. Prove me wrong. Name me another hero of the left right now. My hero of the left is Gavin Newsom. That guy, like, he's actually like seems pretty super authentic on his show, like as much as he can. like, and so this is like having real ramifications. I'm not very familiar with this particular periodical, but Dr. J had a confirmation hearing, for the NIH. And it was an embarrassment for Democrats, according to this author, John Tierney. Senators who once denounced the NIH's nominees' ideas had nothing to say about pandemic lockdowns, mandates, or lessons learned. So this is the possum strategy. And we'll see if it's working. Its confirmation hearing in the Senate last week was as close as we may ever get to a formal surrender in the long war over COVID-19 pandemic policies. While some public health officials, academics, and journalists continue to defend the COVID restrictions and oppose his nomination to, I'm going to avoid saying that name as many times as I can, nomination to direct the National Institutes of Health, Democrats at the hearing unanimously abandoned the fight against his supposedly fringe ideas. Now, I could split hairs on that. The idea that like COVID was fake and there wasn't a risk, like that was a fringe idea. Like really most people did trust the health officials, were afraid of COVID. That was fringe. But what wasn't fringe is vaccine safety. So we had almost half the country saying that the vaccines were likely causing a significant number of unexplained deaths. So you could split hairs about what is fringe here. But, and this is, I think, the guy that signed the Barrington Declaration. But Bhattacharya, a Stanford professor of medicine and economics, had been a leading opponent of COVID measures supported by Democrats on the committee, including the Biden administration's vaccine mandates for federal employees and for workers at private companies. I forget off the top of my head, but I think for most of the time that support for the vaccine mandates was actually roughly split. One of the senators, Edward Markey of Massachusetts, had been so worried about the dangerous policies in Florida and other states that he advocated a national mask mandate in 2020 and introduced legislation. Oh my God, I did it again. Guys. Man. I gotta get a moderator. Somebody smack me. Well, that's crazy. So here I am reading this article. Anyways, one of the senators, Edward Markey of Massachusetts, had been so worried about the dangerous policies in Florida that he advocated a national mask mandate and introduced legislation to prod recalcitrant states. Last week, however, Markey and his Democrat colleagues studiously avoided discussing the mandate or any issue related to COVID. It was not brought up. Isn't it a slam dunk? Like, you have the guy here. He's in your crosshairs. Throw him under the bus, because it wasn't that long ago where people were saying like all of the stuff that RFK was doing was dangerous. Like that was like 2 weeks ago. It's literally like they're doing the possum strategy, and it hasn't worked for them. Polling's going to show us that. Because we polled on Trump's speech. We're going to get to that in a minute. Instead, they used their time to rail at Donald Trump and Elon Musk, leaving it to the committee's Republicans to address the most consequential public health edicts ever imposed on Americans. So Republicans are like, Democrats, don't you care about this? Like, this guy was against it. Aren't you going to ask him? And they're like, no, we're just Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And again, that's stupid too. Donald Trump's super popular. Elon Musk's just as popular as Trump. Doge had a net plus 11 favorability rating. And the numbers we have on, like, we just talked about Monday night, Social Security, 62% said, yeah, Doge should audit that. It was like almost 2-1. And here they are attacking Elon Musk for Doge. It's retarded. It's literally like, how is that a strategy? The only way that they can compete is to somehow convince America that they're the party that can authentically carry out a policy platform that's better than Trump's and has more of a chance of success. And like all they have left is basically affluent white liberals and billionaires. And that used to be enough to buy elections, but I don't know. Maybe without Act Blue, and they're not going to be able to. So I went back to 2019 for a quick look at Democrat favorability. If you put yourself in this situation, this is pre-COVID. This is after, Trump got into his first term. Russiagate had largely played out. I think maybe at the end of 2019, we were dealing with the Ukrainian impeachment hoax. But Trump's approval was actually kind of high there. I think 47 through 49 kind of situation. So it wasn't really sticking. It was just histrionic Democrat performance art, as most of it is. But the favorability rating of the Democrat Party, 23% very. Somebody write these down. 26% somewhat, combined total of 49%. 48% unfavorable, so a net +1. Democrats, it was like moderately okay, 79%. So higher than Biden for most of his administration, but lower than Republicans for Trump right now. And independents, very few very favorable, probably because of the impeachment kind of stuff, but 44% overall, at least somewhat favorable. The Republican Party was actually doing worse by 2 points. I have to believe it's because they didn't back him up and then they got trounced and they squandered Trump's opportunity. But Republicans like the Republican Party more than Democrats like the Democrat Party. And I don't know if that's Trump, but this is an 84% number. Really mind-blowing. And the independents liked Democrats, I think, over 10 points more than Trump. So then we get to just skipped ahead to a year ago. And this is another way to look at this. And sorry, I'm going to have to key over here. But over the last several years, Republicans in Congress have done a good job of representing Republican values, or they've lost touch with Republican voters from throughout the nation. And 24% of likely voters say Republicans have done a good job. 66% say they'd lost touch. So even though Republican favorability of Republicans were high, only 33% of Republicans say that Republicans in Congress have done a good job of representing Republican values. This is one of the worst I've ever seen. And so this was after, McCarthy got booted, right? I think Johnson was in right around this. It was a year before that. 60% of Republicans say that Republicans have lost touch. Over the past several years, Democrats in Congress have done a good job of representing the Democrat values. 41% say yeah to that. 51% say they've lost touch. That's way fewer than the 66% for Republicans. And look at the numbers for Democrats. 72% think their party represents their values. 25% do not. Now, this is wild because objectively, the Democrats in Congress, their views don't represent the majority of Democrat voters because Democrat voters don't like the border invasion. They don't like transing the kids. They don't like all this stuff that the Democrats want. And so I have to call this a brand advantage. Like maybe it's blind faith or trust, but it's there. And even we ask questions about the same time, who's better at getting their candidates elected? And Democrats say Democrats, I think over 20 points more than Republicans say Republicans. So they had an advantage, right? Higher favorability when Trump was in office. But then skipping ahead to right after the election, back in November. In this election, how would you rate the job the Democrat Party did? And this is crazy. So again, apples to oranges, but it'll give you a good idea of the direction here. Only 14% of voters say the Democrats did an excellent job. 18% say good. That's 32%. 44% poor. No bueno. And then for the party numbers, 26% of Democrats say excellent. 31% say good. They're not even getting some sympathy numbers from Republicans. That's crazy. So that's a combined total of 57%. Again, it's a majority. That's a low number. And independents, it's 23%. In this election, how would you rate the job Republicans did? 33% excellent, 26% good, 59% excellent or good, poor, only 19%, less than half of what Democrats had. Republicans, 59% excellent, 25% good. So what's that? 50, 60, 70, 84. 84% combined excellent or good for Republicans. Independents are like, oh, yeah, Republicans did swell. 25% excellent, 30% good. And even Democrats, they're like, yeah, Republicans did a good job. 15% excellent, 24% good. Only 34% of Democrats said poor. This is pathetic. And this, again, this isn't like, this is November 7th through the 11th, right? Elon Musk hadn't been hired yet. Nobody knew it was happening. There were people looking for paper shredders in Washington, D.C., but that's basically it. A slightly increased level in searches for expatriate in Washington, D.C., but that was about it. And here we are with our latest numbers. These numbers are not released yet. You're getting a tease, and so I don't have the full crosstabs up, but conducted March 9th through 11th. Yeah, that's yesterday. These are hot off the press from this morning. Impression of the Democrat Party. Oh, what is that? 44%? That's not good. And very unfavorable, 38. 54% unfavorable, not good. Democrat rating of Democrats is 72%, lower than Biden for most of his term, only 34% very favorable. Keep in mind, Donald Trump had a 65% very favorable among Republicans today. Like, this is bad. Democrats hate Democrats right now. These numbers are appalling. These are appallingly bad. These are almost as bad as Kevin McCarthy numbers among Republicans. Which, like, again, aren't Mitch McConnell bad? It's not Mitch McConnell bad, but it's like Kevin McCarthy among Republicans bad. And then Republicans, 9%, okay, well, whatever. They hate the Democrats. 36% at least somewhat favorable for independents. But the Republican Party numbers are 50% favorable, 6 points higher, 5 points higher, very favorable. And they're at 48%, so they're split. So it's net +0 to net -8 for Democrats. So an 8-point advantage for Republicans, really great. And Republicans like their party less than Trump. It's still 83% overall, but very favorable is almost 20 points lower. So they have to like the Republican Party because they don't have any other alternative. And independents give Republicans a few point edge. So that's really, I can't stress how really, really, really bad that is for Democrats. And of course, maybe all they need is a leader to turn that around, to get them out of the situation that they've put themselves in. But let's look at the speech, because I thought there was something really cool here that really gets back to that possum approach. Last week, President Trump gave a speech to a joint session of Congress. How much of the speech did you watch? 34%, like 1 in 3 U.S. likely voters say they watched all of it. I don't know. That could be because I'm getting a lot of like political junkies who want to answer polls, but I mean, that's a high number. Like, that's a really high number. Half the country said most of it or all of it. 53%. But in general, how would you rate Trump's? Oh, but look too, like 46% of Democrats say they watched most or all of it. They were probably looking for the theatrics or something. And 71% of Republicans say they watched it. In general, how would you rate Trump's speech to Congress? 29% excellent, 17% good. So that's 46%, only 35% poor. That's good. It's like, it was a good speech. Republicans, 50% excellent, 25% good, 75%. So not, as high as the numbers from the election, but still really high. And 26% of Democrats said Trump did an excellent or good job. Only 54% said poor. But here's the kicker. How would you rate Democrats' response to Trump's speech? And this is one of the most vocal, outspoken things they did by doing nothing. They just sat there. And they obviously had the Alyssa Slotkin response, which I didn't hear hide nor hair of, so it must have been meh. And even that, how would you rate Democrats' response to Trump's speech? We didn't say, like, what'd you think about them sitting there? We didn't say, did you watch Alyssa's speech? What was their response? And there clearly wasn't one. It was just sit there and have Trump wag his finger at him. 15% excellent, 16% good. So that's 31% excellent or good. Really bad. what's that, 15 points worse than Trump. And 42% said poor. But the Democrat numbers, look at the Democrat numbers. Republicans and independents here, like 19% of Republicans said excellent or good. I don't know what that's about, but only 5 points more independents. So independents agree with Republicans on the Democrats, although fewer poor. So 58% of Republicans say they did a poor job, 44% of independents down here. But like Democrats, look at this. They just don't want to answer. Excellent, good, fair, poor. 23, 24, 22, 25. And even a 6% not sure. They don't want to answer. 47% say excellent or good. 47% say fair or poor. 25% of Democrats say poor. This is the polling equivalent of putting their hands over their ears and making the noise like in Dumb and Dumber. That's literally what this is. It's really wild. And I'll just flash back to this. This is from this time last month. Just to reiterate, voters are telling Democrats what they want. And sorry, we had another hiccup. Okay, sorry about that. OBS crashed. But I just wanted to reiterate that this is it better for the Democrat Party if Democrats oppose President Trump in every way possible, or try to work with him? 55% say try to work with him. 36% say oppose Trump in every way possible. And Democrats, only 60% say oppose Trump. 30% say work with him. This is like really weak. Like they have given up hope with their party. Like their ratings for the Democrat Party are super low. They think their response was bad. A good portion of them just want them to work with Trump. It's really wild. And yet it's like literally vehemently attack Trump and Elon, try and burn his cars, try and burn his dealerships down, do everything he can to stop Trump. It's like enough. It's been almost a decade. Get over it. Like Trump won and you guys lost. It's like on every single thing. Like here's one Tom Bevan put up. This is somebody else's polling. Insights, I&I. Yeah. Most reject special treatment for federal workers. Yeah. Stop wringing your hands about all these people getting fired. Overall, 65% say no, they should be treated the same as private workers. Only 22% say, yeah, they should receive special treatment. And Democrats, the numbers are like exactly the same. It's enough. Like they're literally permanently destroying their ability to govern. Bill Ackman says this is a permanent stain on the Democrat Party and its leadership that will echo in eternity. Now, eternity is a long time, but maybe it's fair to say that like they are endangering their status as a party, because women will not forget the fact that Democrats, like every single one, unanimously voted against the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act. Every single one. They're racking up L's left and right. And all they have left is lunacy. Laura Loomer posts, wow, Speaker Pelosi just spoke at an event organized by Planned Parenthood and Women's March today. The organizers of the event said they plan to carry out an insurrection by taking over the Capitol. So I guess that's the plan. The Democrats are going to out-insurrection the Republicans. If you've learned something, please follow us at RasmussenReports.com, Rasmussen_poll at Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Mark_R_Mitchell at Twitter. And thanks for watching.